In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. The songs of all my great-grandmothers and the dreams of all my great-grandfathers and the way to rise beyond the pain. I'll live in me. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. And the smiles of all the unborn children and the dreams of a better day to come and the dance of heaven with the earth. I'll live in me. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. Been robbed and disgraced, abused and displaced. Been robbed and disgraced, abused and displaced. Been lied to. You can't be seen through in this land. You can't fall from grace in this land. You cannot be heard in this land. There's more than enough in this land. You're always at home, always at home, always at home. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am. In the land of I am more than I have been. I am more than I will be. I am all that I am.
Oh, I always get these thoughts while I'm participating, and it occurred to me that I was in Chapala, Mexico, at the Conference of the Americas, and there was some really rich music. It was, I didn't understand the words, had no idea what the words were. But luckily, they had the words up on the screen, and it was really moving. It was just, all the I don't know what kind of instruments, but it's different instruments. You probably know, a big guitar, little guitar, all that. But it was the people playing and the people singing were kind of like this. It was just spirit-filled, which is actually what happened at the Pentecost. The Pentecost, people were filled with Spirit. Before they had heard the word, but then they were filled with the word. And I remember saying to this group of people that only maybe 20% of them spoke English, so it's all translated, and I said, we need to have, I said, what I want to have is a New Thought Pentecostal church. Because to come and be filled with a realization, not a heady idea conversation, but to be filled with that so that we can take that and then get it all over everybody. Not proselytizing, but just sharing the spirit of goodness. So thank you. That was a Pentecostal experience for me. I'm very, very grateful. Very, very grateful. Now let's get to the heady stuff. Because the theme for this month is the technology of spirit. And I've used technology before. I've said, this is a technology, and I didn't even know what the word meant, so I thought I should look it up. I was right, though. I was good. I knew that it was the right word. Technology, the definition that I found in at least 3 different sources, were all about the same, and it is the application of knowledge for practical purposes or the aims of human life. So, in a way, the technology of spirit is about practical spirituality. It's about us living a life in such a way that we are proving what we think we believe, that we're proving it to ourselves. Now, I want to just define spirituality in a tiny bit of a way because people can use it in all sorts of different ways. But spirituality, for me, is practical. Now, and I actually, first service, I should on myself. And it's okay. We have this whole thing about should, Don't should on yourself. Don't should on others. Well, don't should on others, but I should. This is the way I should look at spirituality. The way I want it to be is practical. Otherwise, it's just good conversation. I want to have a relationship with something that is undescribable, ineffable. I love that word, ineffable, undescribable, in such a way that I know it's real. And it's not was real, is real. Was real. That's like people talk about what happened in the Bible. That was real, I guess. But I want what is, like I want a full-bodied relationship now with that which is spiritual. We do not teach spirituality as something that's a get out of hell for free. It's a card, you've done this and now you're free in the future. We also do not teach that spirituality is some way to bliss out while everything's falling apart. That's spiritual bypass, and we don't teach that either. What we do teach is that we can have the tools or the technology to create the experience of life what we want. Not maybe the trappings, but the experience, because that's really what counts. How we go through life is important. So I'm reminded of Ernest Holmes when he said there's a power in the universe for good and we can use it, which that and a little Star Wars, we can be a force for good. If we use the technology correctly, we can be a force for good. Now, here's a little trivia aside, and I think it was sent out by Patrick, but I'm going to be looking for it because it just occurred to me this morning. But I saw a picture of George Lucas, and I think he had like R2-D2 or, something. He had some sort of Star Wars-y thing by him, and he was in front of a bookcase. And in the middle of the bookcase was the Science of Mind textbook. Power, force, use it any way you want to. Just thought I'd throw that out there for you trivia buffs. So, this month you will be learning some technology, and I'd like you to try it out. Try it out, see what the results are, be a scientist, and record the results. See if this works. Because otherwise it's just hearsay. And Emerson said, don't have a second-hand God. And I would also say, don't have a second-hand theology or philosophy. Don't quote me, quoting Ernest, quoting Emerson. find out if it works, and apply it if it does. Because, as Johnny Coleman would say, oh, geez, I was so in love with Johnny Coleman. Big woman, unity minister, tall. Had at one time the largest New Thought church in the world, in the south side of Chicago. Oh, she was a force. And she'd say, she was a force. She didn't use the force, she was the force. And you wanted that force with you. And she'd say, it works if you work it. There, I did my Johnny Coleman impersonation. And a lot of us, we know it works for others if we talk about how it works for others, but I'm asking you for this month to try out different techniques, see how they work for you. This is like back to school lab. You know how you used to have theory and then lab classes? I will give you theory. Your life is your lab for this month. Try things out. So I will also be sharing tips for technology, spiritual technology, because there's so much to talk about, so many ways that you can apply the law of cause and effect in your life, so many ways. But I will give more in my thoughts to sleep on. So answer the phone for sometime this week. I don't answer it right away either, and if you're not on our list, it's free, thoughts to sleep on. I will give you a tip a night, so sign up at the registration table. It's free, no advertisements, just ideas. So anyway, we will be doing this, and today's thought is about this idea of seeing as believing. How many of you have heard that, seeing as believing? Yeah, not so much. I want to suggest that perhaps it's more like believing as seeing. So we're going to explore the technology of imagination today. There is a technology in imagination. See, we actually perceive so much. The brain takes in so much. It can, with all of our senses, include beyond sight, but even with sight, we take in more than the brain can process. So the way it copes is it acknowledges, the brain acknowledges things it sees that correspond with what it already believes. It's just the way it works. How many of you kind of know that? So how many of you experience that when people behave the way you believe they will? And you notice. You know, like you're expecting something and you're like, I see that? I knew that. Now that's kind of in the wrong way, because if you think that someone doesn't like you or you think that someone's doing something wrong, you are waiting. And you got your list and you're checking it twice, right? So you've become Santa Claus for them. But I want to put it another way, because every law can support you or can drag you down. So let's look at this another way. How many of you have fallen in love? Oh, what happened to second service? You know, first service, we had like 5 people raise their hand. It's like, what? Who are you? And how did you come about? Really, who are people that have never fallen in love? And then I'd said, now I want you to remember falling in love. No smiles, no nothing. And I'm like, really, wasn't that true? Honestly, you were there. I said, you should smile. You fell in love. You should be remembering the good times. Instead, it's like, so I had to remember the good times when they were just fresh. Love fresh. And everything the person you've fallen in love with does is so wonderful. The way they smile, the way they stop, the way they phrase things, you remember those things? That is the mind seeing what is so perfect about them. If we want to keep any kind of relationship great, it's to stay there. But then we wouldn't need marriage counselors, so there you go. So you understand what I'm saying. I want to give you some supportive illustrations. They've shown that, well, let's just look at the news. You see the headlines that support what you already believe. They've done experiments with fish, and they've put them in a large container and then put screens you could see. They remove the screens, and the fish still see that screen. So they still stay in the small container they were in. I'll give you a more dramatic experience. This, I believe, is true because it was told by Jean Houston many times. I've gone to many Jean Houston workshops and retreats, and she tells the same story, so I think it's true. And it's not about her, it's about Margaret Mead. Who remembers or knows Margaret Mead? Margaret Mead was a very famous anthropologist, cultural anthropologist, and a friend of Jean Houston's. So Margaret tells the story, or Jean now tells the story of Margaret, who went to Australia. And she hung out for a very long time with the Aboriginal people of that place, where they live in what looks like really desolate surroundings and hard to make a living. But they grew so fond of Margaret that they showed her their best stuff. Like where you could always find the grubs, and where you could always find water, and the end of the earth. Margaret said, the end of the earth? Yes, the end of the earth, right here. We don't show it to just everybody because we don't trust that they'll stay on the earth, but we'll show it to you. And Margaret says, so what is it that you see beyond the end of the earth? Well, nothing. They said nothing. They could not see anything beyond the end of the earth. She saw dirt. So she had to test this, like she's never experienced anything like this before. So she walked off the edge of the earth. And they all went into wailing and screaming. They had lost their friend. She was so stupid. Didn't they believe her? Believe them? They was like, what? And so she's listening to them wail and scream. So she walks back to them. So she crosses back onto the earth. Oh, you're magic. You went out into nothing, and now you've come back. How exciting. So they had a belief that there is no land beyond this. They could not see her. That's how the neurons can actually work in our brain. Our belief can so create what we see. So let's work with what we believe so we can see what we believe, so we can create what we believe. And that, my friends, is the goal, or that is the purpose of imagination. When we apply imagination, and how many of you, I love you, it's okay, just confess. How many of you think you have no imagination? Only a few of you. It's actually hardwired. There's actually a center within our body, according to Abraham tradition mysticism. There's a place within our body that is the center of imagination, and we all have it. So to find it, put your hand on top of your head where your crown chakra is. So the most sensitive part of your head, that's your crown chakra. Now, put your hand, the other finger in the middle of your forehead, and where those two meet, if you can just imagine those two lines meeting, that is your center of imagination. Everyone has it. You can, in your imagination, see things that you've never seen before. Otherwise, we're working off of our past and our precedents. Imagination is so important. If our ancestors couldn't imagine something that had never been before, we'd still be in caves hunting with rocks. Because every new development was first imagined, and it was imagined when there was no evidence of it. Someone had to imagine bridges. Someone had to imagine a wheel. Someone had to imagine that they could get on a horse and ride it. Someone had to imagine that certain plants could heal. All of that was part of this faculty that all of us have within us. We can imagine and create out of nothing. And if you think about it this way, in the what we call the Bible, which is just a bunch of books, and the first chapter, which is a book written by a author, God or God's, because it's plural, read it. They couldn't even take it out. Even when they wanted to change the Bible, it says our image, ours, plural. So God said, let there be. There hadn't been before. Let there be. So it is imagining something and then calling it into existence. And then it created us, humanity, in its image and likeness. But we've created God in our image and likeness. We've created something out there with 2 legs and arms and looks like us, whatever us is at the time. And yet, I think the emphasis should be on likeness. So if Spirit can create out of something that's never been before, we can create out of something that's never been before because we see it first and then say, let there be. See it first and then say, let there be. So, I'd like to share with you the technology of activating that center and using it. The first thing is you activate it by simply giving thanks for it. So I'm going to say something, and then I'd like you to repeat it after me. We can only use what we appreciate. Otherwise, we'll be used by it. So appreciation is I'm just going to throw this out. This is a freebie. It's a technology. Appreciation will serve you. What you appreciate serves you. Well, if you don't appreciate it, it won't serve you, or it will make you serve it. Your fears, how many of you have noticed that your fears will make you serve them? Okay, yeah. So one of the ways to change your fear around is to appreciate it. Oh, that'll put what? You know, it goes from big scary thing to like, what? And then you say, I'm so grateful that you've shown up. You're trying to tell me something. Now just give me the message and then calm down. And it will. So appreciate your imagination this way by saying, I give thanks, I have the gift of imagination. And that's for especially those people that were brave enough to raise their hand and say, I don't have an imagination. Well, you have to. If you didn't have an imagination, you wouldn't be here. Why? Because you'd still be crawling around on your parents' floor. Because you couldn't even imagine standing up. Do you see how everything that we've progressed, we first imagined it? Every progression is first initiated by some sort of imagination. Next, imagine the end. Imagine the end. Now, one of the New Thought authors, leaders, gurus was a man named Neville. How many have heard of Neville? Neville It was his first name, and he just went by Neville, wrote so many books. I think I have every single book, and he only teaches one thing. Imagine it. You have to imagine it. Now, he does add, the most powerful time to imagine it is right before you go to sleep. Because that's when you're going into your dream time, and that's when your subconscious will work on it. So that's the most powerful time. But in the meantime, just imagine it, imagine it, imagine it. Put yourself at the end. And he talks about how he got on a ship to go from Barbados, which is his home, to New York City with his family of 4 when there wasn't any spots on the boat. And he did it by imagining the salt air and the salt and the smell of the breeze and seeing New York City and being on the bow of the boat and going, yes, we're almost there. And he imagined it until, for some reason, they had 4 openings and they called him first. It doesn't matter. I do that all the time. If I'm told that I can't make a flight, I just see myself in the city I want to go to. I continue, it's like, somehow I'm getting there. And things open up and shift. The bags may not make it, but I made it. Luggage, I haven't mastered luggage yet. Maybe my luggage should just imagine itself there. That's what I got to do. Luggage, see yourself there, honey. See yourself there. Anyway, I have a friend, and it works in reverse because I have a friend that I'm working with who runs a small company. And she's feeling so burdened and so overwhelmed, and she asks me to pray for her, and I'm praying that the ease of God works through her, but I can hear in her voice that all she can see is that if she goes to work, it's going to be hard. If she feels burdened. She's living in the end of burden. So the imagination's not about just seeing it or believing it. It's seeing yourself in the end, imagining that. So when I wanted to get married again, I thought, give it another try. What's 4 marriages that didn't work? That's no big deal. I've heard 5's a charm. And I'd been single for a very long time. So what I was used to was single. I had to not just pray and not have my prayer partners pray. I had to see myself be in a marriage. You have to put yourself there. At least I had to. You have to. We don't do that. But I get so excited. I invite you to put yourself there. So what I did was I would get into bed because I'm doing the Neville thing, and I would feel, how when somebody else gets in that you feel the mattress go down? I would feel the mattress shift, and I would feel the warmth coming from that side of the bed. And that's the way I went to bed until I just expected it, and it wasn't very much longer that I met Tim. So it's not just the prayers, but the imagining you in the manifestation of that prayer, in it, not seeing it, in it. And then affirm. So we activate it by giving thanks and appreciation. We see it, we see ourselves in the end, and then we affirm, show me the field of possibilities through which I walk. Because what you can imagine is nothing compared to what your soul can imagine. See, we're used to this, and we might go, I can imagine maybe that. Well, Spirit can imagine so much more. That's how human beings have progressed. That's how we've come up with cures for things. That's how we've been able to create the kind of technology that allows us to travel. It's how human beings will create the technology to reverse global warming. Why not? Why not? I mean, if we could get ourselves into this problem, we can get ourselves out. Not our thinking, but an expanded thinking. So we move into this experience of show me the finished kingdom through which I walk. Show me the field of possibilities, which is the kingdom of heaven. Kingdom is a realm. It's a realm of mind. Heaven is harmony. Show me how things can work out. I was talking to someone after first service, and stuff is, like falling apart in certain areas. And she's just like, I know this is going to work out. And you know what? She wasn't saying it as a platitude. She meant it. She didn't see it, but she knew that she lived in a realm of possibility that she wasn't privy to at this moment, but she's opening herself up to what could happen. That's the field of possibility that we all can exist in. And we don't just see it for ourselves, we see it for our planet and the things that concern you. For me, it happens to be our planet and everyone on it, because it affects everyone. Global warming does not choose sides, brothers and sisters. Folkses, y'all. I'm learning to be more inclusive. So I'll just go back to my Okie roots, y'all. We can be a force for good in the world by letting something be revealed to us. That song, In the Land of I Am, more than I have been, I am. More than I ever will be, I am. And I'm moving into that and allowing it to download possibilities that this personality could never conceive of. I mean, here because I was given an idea of my life that Kathy, that's how I was raised. Kathy could have never dreamed of. My mother's dream for me, the highest dream my mother had for me, is that I'd become a bookkeeper. Because there'd always be a need for bookkeepers. And I'd have security. And Kathy, but Kathy couldn't do it because I was dyslexic and kept transposing numbers, and it's really bad. Her other dream was that I would become a secretary, but I can't type, nor did I want to. It's not that those were bad dreams, but see, that was my cultural upbringing, and Spirit kept showing me something beyond that. That's that. Show me the field of possibilities through which I walk, meaning I'm in those possibilities. Don't show me the screen. Show me what I'm in the midst of. Possibilities abounding. So let's say this. I'm going to say it one more time and then let's say it together. Show me the field of possibilities through which I walk. Show me the field of possibilities through which I walk. And then I will use my imagination to reinforce those possibilities that my soul is crying out for. There's in mysticism, the male and the female coming together, the yin and the yang, creating something new. In mysticism, it really means the conscious mind finally being in communion with the soul. And knowing the soul so that creation can take place, because the soul will lead us and urge us forward, and the mind goes, I don't think so. Help! I like familiar, but when that marriage happens, that's the yin and the yang, and from the two are the 10,000 things, spiraling out in possibility and manifestation. Let's pray. So in that realm of I am, more than I have been, I am, because that I am is not just capitalized. It's neon. It's flashing. That That I am is not an idea. It is a living life force that lives within me and within all creation. The I am expresses itself through all creation, but it individualizes itself. It finds a unique expression in me, and as I know that for myself, I know that for every person here. That I am is finding a unique experience and expression that only we can give birth to. And we give birth to it when the soul and the conscious mind say yay and amen. So allow yourself to dream and dream big. Give yourself permission to see possibilities you've never seen before, not only for yourself, but for our world. And then see it. And be like Martin Luther King and say, I have a dream. And dream it. And it will be it. And so it is.